Hi everyone, this is Sahra from Mindscape Psychology, and thank you again for joining me for my Resources of the Week series. Today and next week, we're going to be talking a little bit about shoulds. In cognitive behavior therapy and in cognitive therapy, these are sometimes called rules and assumptions. So what I see quite a bit of in my practice is a point in people's lives where these sorts of rules that govern our lives, which have been pretty functional up until this point, are now starting to become a little bit problematic. And this sometimes happens when we have a particular rule or expectation of ourselves, or we believe that we should be doing something in a particular way or need to be doing something in a particular way. We've constructed that rule and we've set that standard pretty high. But what we've now realized is that our reality might not be meeting that standard. So here's our rule or our expectation, or sometimes we call it the should. And here is our reality. And often what I see is people are within this space between that expectation and their reality and feeling a lot of disappointment and a lot of frustration and feeling pretty negatively about themselves. So sometimes their self-esteem can really be quite low because they're not where they feel they ought to be in life. So sometimes what we can do is we can start to reevaluate our expectations, and we can start to question the shoulds that we're experiencing in our lives. So when we think about shoulds and these sorts of rules, we're often thinking about the kinds of rules, as I said before, that have worked up until this point in our lives. They've been really functional. They've helped us to achieve goals or to help us fit in with particular things in our lives. And you might notice the kinds of shoulds that you have often develop because of the families that we've grown up in, the cultures that we're a part of, or the society that we live in. And when we get to a point where our lives might be a little bit in conflict with that should, or our lives are just not meeting that expectation, that's when we start to experience a little bit of distress. So the two questions that I get my clients to think about, and that I'd like you to think about as well, are, first of all, where does this should come from? And if we find that this should comes from somewhere external to ourselves, it might feel as though it is being imposed upon us by family or culture or society or something or somebody external to us, then we need to think about whether or not we are willing to accept that should. Is it something that I need to be doing, or is it something that is being imposed upon me against my will? The second question that I like people to think about is, does this should serve me? Is this should going to lead me to a life that I want to be living, or to satisfaction, or to a sense of meaning? Is this should healthy and helpful for me? So if we think about an example, we might think about perhaps having a drink of water, and we tell ourselves, I should be drinking more water. This should might be coming from inside of ourselves. It is something that my body is telling me is a necessary thing that I need to be doing. I'm thirsty, so I need to respect my thirst. The second question in regards to whether or not this should serves me, it is a really healthy and helpful should. If I drink more water, I will probably be healthier, and it might help my body to feel less thirsty. Whereas if we think about a negative should might be, for instance, needing to have multiple drinks of alcohol for a social work function. And we might examine this should with the first question. So where is this should coming from? And this should might be coming from the workplace culture or our perceived expectation that we need to fit in with this workplace culture. And therefore we might feel obliged to partake in social drinking. The second question is whether or not this should is healthy and helpful for us. We might not want to be partaking in social drinking, or we might not want to be consuming as much as everybody around us. So we can decide for ourselves whether or not it is healthy or helpful for us to partake. In those two examples, we're thinking about if this should is an externally imposed should on us, or if it comes from inside of us. Is it something healthy and helpful for us? And does that should serve us? Does it take us to where we want to be in our lives? So let's have a think about our shoulds and let's question them. Let's see if they are healthy and helpful shoulds. So join me next week where we're going to be talking about our expectations, both of ourselves and of others. And we'll talk about some strategies to, again, help us manage those expectations. Thanks for joining me today. Bye.